So what would be the proper way to call the meeting into order since we do not have officers elected?
Technically, anyone could go ahead and call the meeting to order. And then there's no requirement that you elect a president or vice president, but I would at least recommend that you select like a chair or a president so that someone can open the meetings and run the meetings and close the meetings. We just had this last night with Parks Board. I think Chris called the meeting to
Okay.
order. He's our director of Parks and Rec. So if you wanna go
I
ahead
can-
and call
so
it.
I will
Yep.
go ahead and, John Rogers, Director of Enterprise Development, I will call the meeting to order. And at this time,
You
on
accept
a-
nominations
yeah.
for a chair.
we're interested in accepting a nomination for chair of the audit committee.
I'll make a motion to appoint Tanya Hyatt as the chair of the committee.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well,
There.
gotta have a vote.
Yeah, second. Anybody second that?
I'll second that.
And then you would ask any other nominations.
John. Did you ask for any other?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can do
Are
it.
you,
I don't
are you
care.
doing it?
I was doing it.
Okay.
I was not paying attention.
It's all good.
Are there any other nominations at this point? Hearing no other nominations, congratulations.
Oh, vote,
Now you have to vote.
Okay,
technically, yes.
I'm so good at this.
It's all good,
Awesome.
we'll figure
I'm
it out.
having such a great morning. At this time, we'll call a vote. Do I need to call each individual?
I would because someone's participating
Okay.
virtually.
So Kurt Waniger, your vote? Yes? Kurt Bart,
Yes.
Tanya?
Yes.
The nomination passes 3-0.
There's president and chair.
Okay, Chair, please take this meeting over. I guess I'll hand it off. We have an RFP. Kurt, I just sent you some examples of
And John, before we begin, if it's appropriate, could I give the committee a little bit of a background on
Sure.
on the why and how we got here?
Thank you.
So, Oscar Gutierrez, municipal advisor to the city. The reason this committee was formed is because the city, under the direction of the mayor, made the decision to go from a cash basis reporting to a GASB gap-based accrual accounting reporting. This year, the city engaged Cat Sapper and Miller to help compile gap-based financials and to compile it into a report that whose acronym is ACFR, Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. I'd like to think that's, Marla, is that the right acronym? It used to be a cap.
Yes, sir, that's right.
All right, acronyms are not my thing. And they have been working, and by they, I would say Marla has been working tirelessly over the last 9 months to put this together, and I think that she probably has nightmares about accounting at this point. But the 2024 ACFR will be completed anytime in the next couple of weeks, so most items have been completed. But yes, the 2023 ACFR, I apologize, so the 2023 ACFR is going to be completed in the next couple of weeks, and the State Board of Accounts will be conducting an audit of the 2023 ACFR. During the process, one of the mayor's goals is to attain a perfect credit score on the city's credit. It's a AAA credit rating, something that became very popular under Mitch Daniels. If you ever decided to drive to Chicago, you would see the AAA state, the state that works, come to Indiana, perfect credit, versus Illinois' junk. So Mitch Daniels made it popular for a period of time. Fishers was the only city in Indiana that had a AAA by Standard & Poor's. And they recently lost it, so it's an opportunity to differentiate the fiscal responsibility of this administration by being the only perfect credit in the state. For comparison, right now, it's AA plus, which is one below. And the peers at AA plus are Fishers, the city of Indianapolis, I believe Carmel may only be a AA. And I think Roseville may only be AA as well, I'm not sure, AA or AA plus. But point being is that we're, right now, Westfield's tied for first with others and just wants to differentiate themselves. Part of the scoring criteria for that is twofold. One is to be on accrual basis, get you the points that will set you apart. Fisher's already on accrual, Carmel's already on accrual, Noblesville's already on accrual. However, there's a lot of other metrics that play into that, and Westfield just happens to check them, and the others have lost them over time for a multitude of reasons that we don't, for another day. So by doing this is we're checking a box in the criteria to get the score over the hump to be able to attain it. One of the items that we struggled with early on the year was the city had this path forward to get to AAA and was in danger of completely losing the credit. Not only to say, not to be downgraded to AA or AA minus, but to completely say, you guys don't even qualify for a credit from the rating agency. So imagine if you're a human and Experian tells you like, your financials are so bad that we can't even like grade you. And it's not that the financials were bad, it's that their criteria is that you have to have audits consistently. And the last audit that the city had, actual audit, was back in 2020, Marla? Was that the previous actual audit?
Let's see, let me think. Yes, the last audit, but it was 2 years delayed.
Right.
So I believe they were there in 2022 to complete 20.
Right.
And then we did have a single audit, federal, in 2023.
Yeah, and those
That's
are federally mandated, and we can cover that here in a little bit through the RFP process. So because the state was delayed in their response, Marla and the mayor worked with the legislature to try and get that caught up with the State Board of Accounts. So the State Board of Accounts came in and did audits up to 2023, which is the last reportable year. So Marla has been dealing with audits since she came in, compiling financial accrual reporting, and is getting ready to be audited again on an accrual basis. So because of the lack of response of the state and the general consensus of other entities to do private audits, the thought was that the customer service and quality of a private audit to have the city control their own destiny of having a professional accounting firm conduct the audit may be worth exploring. I want to preface that the council could at any point say we don't want to pay the money, and the recommendation could be to just have the State Board of Accounts continue to do this. But it is important to go through the steps, get responses from auditors to determine if the cost to do this is worth the convenience to be able to tell a consultant to say, come in on this date, leave by this date, and be able to complete an audit in a timely basis, which has not been, the experience with a third party like the State Board of Accounts. There's other things of focus, so the state focuses on other things that a professional firm may not. The professional firm is gonna really focus on financial information, where the state may be more, or focus on, and I think that the example that KSM uses, and I laugh every time they say it, it's like, did somebody buy a $22 cake, but then don't pay attention to progress or something, or capital asset or internal controls, but they really get mad about that $22 cake. So the focus is different between the entities, and I believe that is something that this body will have to consider on what the experience would be like. Now, the State Board of Accounts has not conducted a gap audit yet, so we'll rely on Marla's recommendation, her experience, and how that went as this process goes along. So where we are today is the city had to, through a resolution of the council, say that they would create this committee to evaluate having a private firm conduct an audit of the city, which then goes to the State Board of Accounts, and then the State Board of Accounts could still say, no, you don't get to do this. However, they never told anybody no, so there's no precedence. It's pretty much if you just follow the steps, which we are, they would say yes, if the city's willing to assume the cost. So here we are today as a committee, and you have before you some sample requests for proposals to be the template that we would like to follow and customize to what becomes the priority of this committee. There are some things that John and I had a conversation with our compilers today, Kat Miller, and you want me to cover those?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
And you know, some of the things, the biggest thing that you will be focusing on in this process is the scoring that will be conducted. And the scoring, the recommendation that we have for you is that you guys put an emphasis on experience, and the experience be around the following, that whomever is selected has experience with municipalities, with GASB, which is the rules that govern municipalities, so there are different, you know, and I Kurt, you could probably explain to the group a lot better than I could, I'm not an accountant. But you can explain what the difference between GASB and others. Single audits, which is what Marla alluded to earlier, which is for when a city has received more than $750,000 of funds. It used to be called an A1 audit, now it's called a single audit, and it's under the uniform guidance. So every year, by federal law, any entity that has received more than $750,000 has to be conducted a single audit, but that is not an audit of the city financials, it's simply an audit of where those funds spent in the way that the federal government intended them to. And that has to take place, so as Marla stated, the State Board of Accounts did keep up with those because those are federally mandated. And we wanna make sure that whoever selected has at least done those as well, because they go hand in hand. While it's not the ACFR audit, they'll also be expected to do the single audit. You know, and then there's.
Does that single audit have like a federal name or something that goes by, or is it just?
Single audit is what it's referred to.
Correct. It's just single audit is what it's referred to.
Yeah, it used to be called an A1, is that what it was? A1 audit?
It's been single audit for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm just
It's
been,
business programs, yeah.
yeah, back in the day, it used to be a much lower threshold, 750 is a lot now. But it's easy for Westfield to hit that. Marla, you were gonna say something? Maybe not.
No, sometimes we do talk about SLFRF funding when we reference that single audit.
Yeah.
So if you see SLFRF, know that that's what we're talking about.
Okay. But you know, on the RFP, we'll try to, you know, and we'll take Kurt again. Part of the creation of this committee, there are there's state guidelines to this committee, and one of them is that there has to be a member citizen that is also a CPA, and that is Kurt, where you check the box.
Okay.
So,
Good job, thank you.
so thank you for it. Don't lose your license in the next 2 months, please.
Wow.
Let's hope not.
He really cares about you. It's not coming across that way, but I'm sure you know.
I'm kidding. But so that is one of the requirements so that you can provide guidance on things like what is a single audit, right? That you can do that for the committee. So it's not blindly being pushed in one direction or the other. So when going through this RFP, you know, experience should be one of the guidelines for scoring, and you know, how you guys determine what that experience is will be part of this. How much weight you give to experience. Other things that that you should consider is customer service and how they will work with the city, you know, just kind of highlighting what the experience will be like for the clerk treasurer, so that she doesn't come in, you know, so that she knows what her expectations are and she knows who, you know, either a single person to hug or a single throat to choke type of thing, so that she has that. And then fees obviously are important, but as you can, as anybody that's dealt with road work or construction, the lowest bid isn't always the most important thing, but should be taken into consideration, the fees. You can always add any add-ons to that, you know, if you want them to have an office in Hamilton County or in the state of Indiana, or, you know, anything that you feel is important on the selection, should be noted on this RFP. The final thing that I would say is that the State Board of Accounts does typically, when having to conduct a gap audit, outsources that, and there are 3 firms that they typically outsource it to. Cat Sapper and Miller has a decent chunk of it, but they compile the financials, so they're conflicted out, so they cannot do this, which leaves 2 additional firms that should be included. We don't have to, but our recommendation is that we can include any firms that you would like to include, but we at least include Forvis, who does a big chunk of this, and Crow, who also does a big chunk of this. I will say that Crow is a competitor, but they do a great job in audit, so I have, you know, from that department, you know, no complaints. And then you determine additionals, we have to have at least a 3rd firm, and, you know, I don't know if Blue and Company would be conflicted out with you being on the, there's Baker Tilly, London Witty, RSM, I mean, we could look at almost any other entity that you can think of or recommend. Not every entity deals with GASB audits, so we are happy to, you know, anybody that, and Kurt and Marla, I know you guys get hit up for work from a lot of people, so if you wanna include somebody and just have them take a look at it, you know, we can send it to as many people as you would like, but we have to have at least 3. And with that is, you know, and I just wanted to start with kind of how we got here and what we're looking for from you guys as we look at these proposals that are before you. Those are not meant to be the RFPs, but it is the basis that we can customize what's already there to be Westfield's. And, you know, the main points are how we're gonna score it, what your priorities are, and who we send it to. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Madam President, and you have a couple examples, and the goal, the goal would be here, I don't know how to best organize this other than, you know, this will probably take more than 1 meeting, unfortunately, you know, your volunteers and your time is valuable, and we wanna be as efficient as possible. Obviously, but we need to have this done before the end of the year. We
Selected or the RFP published? You have to have someone selected or the RFP published by the end of the year, I forget.
somebody selected, I believe,
When is the performance supposed to occur for
next year.
next year?
next year. So
So they would
For
be doing the
2024
CAFR.
they'll be doing the 2024 ACFR.
ACFR, and it, what period of time would it be ready for audit? That's an important piece.
Yeah, good question. The difficult part, I believe, is done. And I don't wanna speak for Marla, as it is her that compiles the document and has been working on this. So because the first year always will be more difficult to create the work papers. We have a deadline to receive what is called the Certificate of Excellence from the Government Financial Officers Association, which is nationally, international, I guess Canada, if you count Canada's international organization, that does provide the standards for what a ACFR, now you got me saying it too, what an ACFR is supposed to be, all the boxes were checked. That award is not based on findings, so we could still have a lot of findings and still receive the award, so it's not scoring the performance of the audit, but rather that it has all the components that would best serve the public. And that audit has to be completed by June 30th, Marla, or June 1st?
Well, I think it's June 30th, but I'd have to double check to be sure, Oscar. I really don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, but ideally, the goal would be to be completed before June. Marla has been working with GFOA to get extensions, that they understand it's the first year, and even next year, they would probably be open to extensions, as it's still fairly new to the city. But the goal would be before the deadline to submit to GFOA is the goal. I believe that has been the goal of the Clerk Treasurer's Office and KSM to an ongoing basis to be able to meet that deadline. Obviously, we can't predict that would be the case, but I know that it should at least be sooner than what it was done this year. And obviously Marla was going through 3 years of audits, compiling the ACFR and getting ready for another audit, so a lot of this noise will be hopefully easier on her office next year, and I think that they're probably looking forward to the break of that they or the punishment, however you'd like to think about it, Marla. But June 30th.
For completion date, which would also mean we would wanna make we would wanna select with enough time they can do preliminary, cause those teams are very busy in the first quarter. So you don't wanna select.
Yeah, I believe that that KSM would like to begin starting their work almost immediately for 24, even before the year ends. There's a lot of schedules that can be completed or substantially completed even before the year's over. And part of the recommendation, and I think you'll appreciate, is that if you control the company, they can begin doing testing even before the ACFR is completed. So it could be a handoff, right? So let's say, and I'm just gonna make up, and I'm probably dead wrong on this, but let's say that your asset list is completed, they can begin testing that, or whatever else that is testable before anything else is done, and then that is checked off the list. And I think that is why it would make it easier on the Clerk Treasurer's Office, KSM, to select a professional firm that you are paying, as opposed to the process currently with the state, which is you have to be completely done and then they get started, and then now we're waiting for them to complete it. And I think that the professional give and take that you're describing, it's the common practice and the preferred practice to most professionals, but again, that comes at a cost, and I know Kurt's on the line, I'm not sure if he'll weigh in on this, but the council is concerned about the cost difference between having a state government agency that, their costs, cause you do still have to pay them, and the cost difference of having a professional firm, and, cause it's really for convenience, control, and many other things, customer service. So part of Kurt's, purpose here is to, not only because he's the fiscal body finance chair, but to evaluate the value and communicate that to the council as a whole, so. Kurt, anything else that you wanna add to that?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I mean, the cost is a concern, but also I think the quality that we're gonna get out of this product will also benefit the city in the long run as well. So I think we'll have to weigh the two and look at it that way. I did have a question on the firms that are eligible to do this work and stuff. Do they have to be on a list with the state State Board of Accounts? Or is there like a list of maybe firms that are blacklisted or those types of things? Is it like they have to have an accreditation? Is that it?
I think it says they have to be licensed in Indiana and qualified to conduct examinations in accordance with the government auditing standards. So I don't see anything in the statute about a list. Oscar, I don't know if you have any other information. I think you just have to go through the statute and make sure they do everything the right way, that they're a firm that follows the guidelines.
I'm not aware of any blackballs, but it's something we could ask the state if there's a firm
Yeah, I
that they
would
would
do
like
that.
us to not include. I don't think that they make that public, but we could always ask.
Yeah, I think that would be,
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we didn't select somebody and then the state come back and say, oh, they're not on the list or they're not eligible or we've had issues in the past or something like that. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that that's kind of vetted as well as we go through this process.
yeah, no, what I will do is, because the communication with the state is probably best to go through KSM as they're compiling the ACFR. And they're the ones that are gonna be working with the state currently. I think it's best for me to just have our the partner that's working with us to make that ask of if there's somebody is, and then they'll provide that information feedback to us since they're in conversation with them already, so I'll make sure that I communicate that.
Yeah, and if I could
So-
add,
so
I don't
next
think
step-
there's I'm sorry, Kurt, it's Marla. I didn't mean to speak over you. I was gonna say, I don't believe there's a blacklist, but I think there is an approved list.
That would be good to have. Wanna get that?
Yeah, I can get that or see if I can get it. I mean, I thought I saw it, so if I can find it, I'll be sure to send it to everybody.
That works.
Thanks, Marla.
Yeah, I just,
So the next steps of this committee is to put out an RFP and come to an agreement on the terms and conditions associated with what you kind of outlined earlier. So to go through this process, I know you got a couple examples. John shared a couple of them via email already and probably have them ready to show up. Are we gonna go through those today, or is this something that us as a committee can meet separately outside of a public meeting to go through and establish this? Or is it something that we have to do individually to, come to a final agreement on a RFP to be able to be sent out?
you can probably, sorry, go ahead.
So you wouldn't be able to meet as a committee outside of making it public since it falls under the open door law. But as the council does or other boards, you can work on a document, just not all at the same time. So if there's a proposed document, Tanya can add her changes and then you just can't have like an active working teams folder. I wouldn't recommend you have, it's gonna take a really long time if everyone sits down in a public meeting for hours to go over this document. That's up to you guys. I would
We
recommend.
could also empower,
I was gonna suggest that if the committee could authorize the administration, myself, to go ahead and put together a document for you to review. And then that would get us there.
And then make
That's what I'll
comments
do.
to that. We wanted to provide
Individually.
these samples and what will be provided to you, again, we can't be prescriptive and it has to come from you. It's really, that's why you're here, you're
Mhm.
an independent body. If we give you, here's an RFP, approve it, then
Yeah.
it's not really serving the purpose, so.
I agree.
Full transparency, like what you see there, those templates will probably be the starting basis, and again, we want you, like, the main feedback from you guys will be the scoring and what you value, and some of the things that I mentioned, which is experience, customer service, fees, and, approved list. You can just think about what is important to add to make it what's important to Westfield, because you're ultimately speaking for the city.
And then my recommendation would be to get back together to discuss, make it final, vote to issue it, authorize someone to issue it, because you do have to publish a notice, 531, which would be, I don't know if they've changed it yet from the newspaper, but until July, it was at least in the newspaper. And then once responses are received, meet again to do the evaluation, selecting of the 3, and then it goes on to the council. So I think, unless you guys disagree, I think it would make sense to kind of authorize someone to work on it, make your own changes, get together, and authorize issuance.
Marla, any feedback from that? Any that, how, do you wanna?
Obviously timeliness is the goal, right? Because that's what got us in this pickle to begin with. And I mean, we work as hard and fast as we can, as do most people, but getting everything together at the end of the year, it takes us a couple months to actually close 2024. And so we're gonna have to work extra hard at the same time to make sure we're then supplying all of the data that KSM is gonna need to prepare the act for 2024. And customer service is huge. They are wonderful communicators. And so I think there should be a lot of emphasis on what this, what the auditors are going to want, whomever you select, and obviously price also. I mean, we kind of know what the state would charge, and so I hope we can stay somewhere in the same vein, but I understand it's going to be a little bit more expensive. But I can put more thought into it, and I'm also can look for some samples. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not the first people to do this, although there are not that many cities who get ACFR audits across the state. But I can reach out
Only
to
our neighbors.
supervisors and controllers. Yeah. I know, I'm friendly with the controller down from Jeffersonville. And, I think there are conversations that can be had, but you guys just need to, if you're welcome to direct questions to me, and I can reach out to other controllers if you like. But whatever your needs are, I mean, I want to be there because obviously, whomever you select, we will communicate with, pretty intimately. They come spend time in our office, and so we have to make sure their needs are met also.
I think your feedback is incredibly important, because you are selecting somebody that you'll be working with, so your feedback is clearly important. And that RFP again is.
Caitlin and Oscar, would it be okay for John Rogers to kind of put a template together with all of the Westfield information and all that things together, provide a couple of examples, and then we pull stuff into it, and based on the examples that Marla would provide as well, or find a template like Fisher's or somebody that used before and start to build upon that with the other examples of the items. And is that okay for John to pull that portion together?
For
Kind of
sure.
save us a little bit of time and kind of move this process forward a little quicker.
That seems most efficient. I can ask some of my fellow attorneys, I've kind of asked them about this. It seems like they did this a while ago, so they didn't have super up-to-date stuff, but I
Yeah,
can see if I
yeah.
can send you guys templates too.
Yeah, I asked Lisa for hers and she's still looking for it.
Yeah.
This is a process that will have to take place every year. But once we have it, you can just keep doing it, and obviously you can change the scoring to keep kind of, if you're happy with who you selected, you can kind of weigh it that way, but at some point, I think Fishers did it for 2 years and they said, pick whomever you want, we don't wanna be involved anymore. And they haven't had to do it in years, so we're still, like, I asked their controller last week to try and find it, and she's still looking for it, cause it's been like a
Yeah.
decade since they had to do this.
But I think that's the best process if you guys, the committee, it's ultimately up to you guys how you wanna handle it. I'm legally fine with that. I think it makes sense.
I'll ask that question here in a minute, but just a follow-up question. Oscar, can you put together kind of a schedule to, deadlines and dates? Hey, we wanna have a draft by this date, we wanna, we gotta have this out and published by this date, we have to have somebody selected by this date, and then, on the back end too, what the timelines are associated with that, if, by that June 30th date, and anything else, and maybe timelines associated with, what those organizations will have to do or perform by certain dates that we can incorporate into the agreement.
Is it okay to circulate that to the group if I put something together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's fine.
The big issue comes when you're having like group teams meeting with everyone typing at once, cause then it becomes a meeting, but you're welcome to send things around to people, yeah.
I don't know if this has to be a motion or anything. I guess my recommendation would be that, Marla pull some examples together, gets those to John Rogers. John Rogers use the examples that he has as well to form a Westfield template of this RFP that will then be circulated via email to the committee members to review and provide their input, and then get that back to John. John formulates that. If there's conflicting items or things like that, then we'll hold another meeting, public meeting, to discuss the fine-tuning of that RFP and have a schedule associated with the timeline for the RFP, and then the timeline associated with the audit for once we select someone, and the deadlines or the target dates that we want to hit.
I wouldn't think you would need a motion. You could just make a motion to reconvene to issue the RFP, and everyone here understands and seems like they agree on those roles.
Tanya, Kurt, how do you guys feel about that proposal?
Seems to be the most efficient and reasonable from my perspective.
I feel comfortable with that as well. So we need to make a motion.
Just make a motion to reconvene and issue an RFP.
Do I have a motion to reconvene and create an RFP?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Motion approved.
Second the motion?
okay. And we would need a vote. I don't know who's calling those.
Chair would call it, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I can call the roll if you like.
Thank you.
Oh,
That would be
there
great.
you go.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Marla.
No problem. Okay, motion made by Tanya Hyatt, seconded by Counselor Waninger. We are looking for a vote, so I'm going to call the roll, and you vote yes or no. Tanya Hyatt,
Yes.
Kurt Byer,
Yes.
Kurt Waninger.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thanks, Marla.
Thank you, Marla.
Thank you.
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Well, Kurt, before you do that, I'd like to suggest, for purposes of meeting schedule, that you guys consider, and Oscar.
Yeah, just pick a date and then you'll
Yeah,
have a full
so-
schedule before then, but at least to follow up.
Yeah, something we can lock in right now. Is it 30 days from now, this same time, same day of the week,
Or sooner preferably.
Sooner.
Yeah.
3 weeks from now? You tell me, Oscar, what makes
Yeah,
sense?
we can knock this out.
Okay, 3 weeks.
So 3 weeks would be September 26th.
Does that work for everybody? Kurt, does that work for you, September 26th?
At least we just text.
I'll be on vacation. I don't know if that's super. I can look at the document before. I don't think you guys need me in here unless I'll be on vacation the whole week.
Let me check.
Out loud.
I think September, I think I'm available that day.
I'm available anytime before 3.
Okay, before 3?
Yep.
Tanya,
I'm available as well.
you wanna,
I'll be here Friday.
hey Kurt, you wanna do 1 or 1:30 on the 26th?
Could,
Let's do 1 o'clock. I have a 2 o'clock meeting that day. If you think it's gonna be a long meeting, I'm okay with starting at noon. Having it a 2 hour.
I have a-
time.
have a board retreat for Everwise at Bottle Works until 2. I could probably sneak out early though to be here.
To 1, so 1 will work.
It starts early, so I'll be able to get out.
So, how about 1 o'clock, Kurt? It looks like Oscar's got, Tanya, 1 o'clock work for you?
But
Kurt?
Kurt said,
Okay, I'm also Friday the 27th, I'm available in the afternoon as well.
And I might be remote if I'm not, don't have to be in person, so
No,
I'll
So it
probably,
doesn't work for us because we have that, our mandatory,
Oh, you guys are gone.
we'll all be gone. All directors will be gone that day.
Yep.
You can look at the 29th, good.
Okay, 1 o'clock on the 26th.
Kurt,
I thought it was the 25th. Are we saying 26 now?
I think we originally said the
26th
twenty-sixth,
is
because that's
when we
exactly
started.
3 weeks from
Oh,
today.
okay, got it.
But if the 25th, any day that week, I'm sure would work. It'd be 3
Does it work,
weeks.
does that work for you, Danielle?
25th, it's fine.
25th, I'm not available. 24th, I am.
24th, all the directors are out.
So stick with the 26th.
No, we can't. Danielle's right, we're not here on the 26th.
27th.
We're not
27th.
here on the 27th, we're here on the 26th.
So who can't do the 26th besides
26th.
me?
26 works.
26.
I thought
So why
Kurt
would we
was
go
having,
away from-
well, I thought
Yes,
Kurt was having.
2
trouble.
o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Is it 2 o'clock?
Okay.
It's 1 o'clock.
I can make the 26th work.
Okay, that's fine.
1 o'clock, the 26th.
John will send out invite, okay.
We'll have to post the notice.
Marla, will you do that?
Yes, I will get that taken care of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And John, can you send out a calendar invite for everyone at
Yeah,
the time
I'm-
and location?
I'm doing it right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just on, we should talk about that process because we should have a centralized person doing that, so it goes on the city admin and all the correct people get invited. So I'm gonna talk to Terry about that. She's down to do it.
So she-
But you can send it, John, just.
Okay, so how about if I copy Terry also?
Now you guys can move to adjourn.
I will move to adjourn.
I'll second.
With this, you can just do all in favor if you want, because technically the chair can just adjourn it, so either way.
So we're
All in
adjourned.
favor?
All in favor of adjourning?
I,
Say aye.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.
Alright,
Guys.
only mildly painful. It's a lot for like the first meeting, it's like, by the way,